At the heart of the Columbia program, and at the heart of all of our global studies programs, is the idea of preparing students for leadership in a rapidly changing world. What that looks like for students is it looks like them building the soft skills and the hard skills of leadership. So they learn to understand leadership as a behavior and not just a title.
Nombre de los muiscas.
¿Dónde está el templo del Carmen? ¿Tú lo viste? ¿Cuál es?
Students were put in positions where they were depended on to lead a hike, brief an activity, or explain a difficult concept that they had researched before they went on the trip. Those moments of leadership were plentiful as students shared their knowledge, shared their skill, and were put in positions where the trip needed them to be able to move forward. One of the things that was challenging about this trip is we intentionally took students to places that made them uncomfortable. Looking at the underbelly of the tourism industry as well as the things that enrich their cultural understanding. Students were faced with the challenges of the ethics of environmental tourism. They confronted questions about the carbon footprint of the trip and whether or not it was worth it from an environmental perspective and the environmental cost. Nightly, we gathered as a group and debriefed about the contradictions of Colombia and the contradictions of what it means to be a good traveler, so that when students came back, they had changed the way they think about the complexity of what it means to be a global citizen. I think that students throughout this trip learned that everyone has a story to tell. You just have to learn how to ask the right questions. How do you go from being someone that's curious to putting that curiosity into a question that will allow you to connect with someone and allow you to more deeply understand a place? How do you ask a question that will engage a dialogue? How do you ask a question that will show that you're curious and that you care about someone? How do you ask a question that will allow you to get out of your own mindset and into someone else's? That was at the core of what we did every day and at the core of what the trip built up to at the end. So students get back to their classes here at Deerfield, whether they're in US history or calculus. I'm hopeful that they're able to ask better questions because of the experience they had in Colombia. Global education at this point in our history is no longer an add-on. And if you look at Deerfield Academy, a Deerfield education is a good global education. And that's why we're weaving these global travel experiences into the curriculum and into what it means to be a Deerfield student. That's part of who we are as a school. So the travel experiences push students to reflect on the kind of education they're having at Deerfield. It pushes them to be challenged and engaged with different types of questions that they wouldn't face on campus. Without question, being able to interact with people who are different from you is no longer an optional part of a good education. It's a necessary part of a good education.